You are listening to Beyond the Verse, a Star Citizen podcast. A show dedicated to Cloud Imperium games, Star Citizen, and Squadron 42. Whether you fight, explore, unite, and/or trade, we bring you news, updates, interviews, reviews, and analysis. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a pour of Radegast, and join us as we go Beyond the Verse.
Launch sequence activated.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Beyond the Verse, Star Citizen podcast. I'm your host, Solus, and today's episode is episode 69. We're previewing all things 324. But before we get into that fun conversation about the status of where we are in that patch, we will be covering the subscriber promotions, the roadmap update, the Star Citizen monthly report. We're going to watch Inside Star Citizens Playing with Fire, that's Alpha 4.0, and then we will end, more than likely, with going even deeper into 324 and some reactions that I've had. So it's going to be a very filled podcast. We're going to try to move hot and heavy. I have an obligation or a commitment right after this because it is Friday morning. So we're going to run through this podcast hopefully in an hour and get through most of it. So just laying the groundwork for us all there to set those expectations. It is the first podcast, well, sort of. It's the second podcast of August, but this is the first opportunity that I've had to share with y'all the July monthly show review. And so for those of you on YouTube, you are able to see the screen. Again, I do this every single month whenever it's the appropriate time. But the month of July, so in 68 episodes, in 15 bonus Org Night episodes, and we also had our first The Arc episode, which is our book review bonus episode. Beyond the Verse podcast has reached over 67 countries, listening in over 31.6 thousand plays and watching over 39.1 thousand views. And our in-game organization Soul Provision grew to 150 Discord members and 84 Spectrum members. So I want to say thank you. Again, I do this every month. It hopefully becomes a norm where you expect this, but I wanted to celebrate the community there. And while we're at the point of celebrating the community, I would like to also celebrate our monthly supporters. So these are individuals that have contributed their disposable income once a month directly to this Spotify podcast in order to keep the lights on and in order to help fund. We're halfway there. We're very close. We're very close to being able to replace my Go XLR with the Rodecaster. We're trying to get the newest Rodecaster Pro 2 because the Go XLR has lost support. You've heard me say that several times at this point, but I wanted to celebrate our 7 monthly supporters. That's Dreamer of Days, Captain Trips, Jacob Hardeen, Marcus Roy, Brandon Lawhorn, Will Spicer, and Dustin Thames. So thank y'all so much. Blessings. It has meant the world to me that you would spend your disposable income to help support. So thank you so much. Straight into From the Community. Like I said, hot and heavy. Let's get going.
Incoming message.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode. It was episode 68, Star Citizen in Real Life. I had a family vacation that we ended with NASA over in Space Center Houston. And we dealt with NASA Artemis, and it's a super exciting conversation. I mean, obviously it's real life, but like where we're going as a nation, if it's the United States of America, and really a global effort. It's intercontinental at this point. But Artemis is going to be a phenomenal space exploration that's going to take us to the moon, then to eventually Mars within our lifetime. So it's super. I keep saying super exciting. I mean it, and maybe I'm just a nerd and whatever. But I received great feedback. It's interesting. Our podcast listens dropped a little bit, but our YouTube viewership increased significantly. People really wanted to see the photos and the videos that I shared. So it's interesting to see that kind of flip-flop. But like I do at the end of every episode, I did ask the poll, quote, I got value from listening to the NASA Artemis experience. And the answer options were strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. This is your typical Likert scale if you're a nerd like me, but it's like on a scale from 1 to 5. And so 75% of you strongly agreed that you received value from listening to the NASA Artemis experience. I love that. I had no doubt. And that and 12.5% agreed. So we have roughly very, very close to 90% of individuals really enjoying the content that's really beyond the verse, right? Really beyond the video game of Star Citizen. And then we had 12.5% vote neutral, which is fine. Like, I totally expect that. You come to Beyond the Verse podcast to hear about Star Citizen. I can respect that any deviation from that can be off-putting. I totally recognize that. That's why we do it very rarely. No one disagreed. No one strongly disagreed. So great feedback. Thank you so much. I'm going to try to continue to do those engaging things that really take us through the different layers of Star Citizen and getting ready for 324 and 4.0 and really Star Citizen 1.0 and Squadron 42. There's things outside of the game that can help us get there in kill time. Let's go over to the comment section. We also have emails, and I actually might start off with the emails. So the comment section has been very problematic in Spotify. I've given my feedback. There's a lot of individuals giving their feedback that this is just not a favorable experience, to say the least. So through all that commotion of trying to get the polls and the comments squared away, I completely neglected our email, the contact@beyondtheversehq.com. So I want to spend a couple of seconds going through emails that date back to July 27th from Prime Entity. So I want to give them a fair shake, read their email, and they actually have developed artwork. So in a couple seconds, I'm going to screen share 2 pieces of art that they've created. So again, this message is from Prime Entity. Thank you so much for engaging and writing this email. Let's get to the email. So I finally got this working, so that's great. Now I want to point out in quote, Easter egg aboard the Anvil Carrack. In the conference room, if you look at the papers, sometimes there are little parts from CIG talking about the game. That is super interesting. Break. So this is not part of the email. I have not confirmed. I have not been able to get into a Carrack and confirm this, but this does not surprise me at all. It kind of reminds me of the Easter egg in the Drake Corsair, or at least it was in the Drake Corsair. It's not anymore, but you would go to the kitchenette, like the kitchen area, and you could find a flask, and it's a beautiful flask. It's engraved, I believe, with something UEEN related, but you could take it, put it in your inventory, and you would have it in your inventory, but you would find it in the Drake Corsair. This does not surprise me. I haven't confirmed it. I haven't seen it myself, but it does not surprise me that CIG would put little Easter eggs in the Anvil Carrack like this. So y'all go check it out. I don't have a Carrack right now to go and see and validate, but I would love to see and hear what is the latest on this Easter egg. Super awesome. Back to the email. You want to know what I've been doing? Mainly been doing Merc missions by asking in Global if anyone would do a Merc mission with me. Otherwise, I do bounties as a gunner and attempt different niches of work. Still haven't really found mine yet. Break. So, yes. So my favorite mission, at least until 324's cargo comes out, and then we'll probably go back to this, are mercenary missions. I feel like mercenary missions are all-encompassing. It involves flying, especially the more advanced or the more challenging mercenary missions. It involves flying to your location, dogfighting a little bit, taking out a turret, you land, you have to FPS your way through a bunker, or the Siege of Orison platforms, repel raids on Orison platforms. It's very engaging. It's very involving. In my opinion, it's the most holistic game loop that exists in Star Citizen at this current moment. So I am right there with you. Doing bounties as a gunner, hey, power to you. I wish, and maybe there are more people and I'm just not privy to it, I'm just not aware, but I wish more people were willing to kind of be that gunner on someone else's ship, especially in general chats, right? You don't know these people, but you want to volunteer. And I say that because, and I'm not faulting gamers for feeling this way. It makes total sense. But everybody wants to be the main character. It's this main character, I'm going to call it a syndrome, but the main character syndrome, you want to be the pilot, you want to fly, you want to be Squadron 42's main character, right? That's not going to be sustainable or scalable in Star Citizen. We're going to need individuals that just want to fight fires. We're going to need individuals that are just engineers or turret gunners or any of the other resource management skills that are going to be coming out. We're going to need those. And so Prime Entity, like, props to you, much respect for that's something that you're doing, especially like in general chat. Pretty cool. Back to the email. Out of Star Citizen while still in the game, I mainly make vehicles to the best of my ability. Badass. They also have a recommendation for the arc called The Electric State. It's a novel by, I'm going to butcher this, novel by Simon Stalinog. Okay, cool. It's mainly pictures, but it does resemble what I imagine Pyro to be like. Thank you again for the awesome podcast, Prime Entity. So, yeah, I wanted to give that a fair shake. It's been 3 weeks, I think. July 27th, so really just 2 weeks. Wanted to give that a fair shake, but let's go to the artwork that they've shared. So I'm going to share my screen for those of you on YouTube. Now, complete fairness, I don't necessarily know what the material is. It looks like a Hornet. It's a very well done, artistic, kind of a contoured, like if you're familiar with Photoshop or you're familiar with, I guess Photoshop. It's like when you do a contour filter over something, it makes it look like artistic. It makes it look very beautiful. And it appears like the Hornet is flying over maybe like a series of mountains in the background. It's really well done. It's a beautiful artwork. I can actually see this being somewhat of a tattoo idea. I don't know if you want to get Star Citizen tattooed on your body, but you put it next to the Beyond the Verse tattoo that you've got on your shoulder, right? So that is a really awesome piece of artwork, and they have one more. I just want to make sure I share this, and this is amazing because it is Beyond the Verse. They kind of did the same thing, like a contour thing, but it looks more of a flame, like on fire. But you got the Beyond the Verse logo, essentially on fire. Again, looks great. I can see this being an album cover that I can use in the future for like a bonus episode, which I might actually do pending permission. So definitely wanted to share that from the community. Awesome. Let's get back. We did the emails. Again, contact at beyondtheversehq.com. We will read everything. Let's get into the comment section for episode 68. And again, we're going to kind of go through this somewhat fast. But the first one is from, I don't see a name on it, so the username is JD Patrico 4. Quote, "This is really, really cool. Not just for the Star Citizen nerds, but space and sci-fi content in general. I'm not a big group org guy, but out of all the Star Citizen podcasts out there, this has some wholesome feels. I'm looking into joining." I really appreciate that comment, and please join. And that's www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. But we're mainly operating on a Discord. So when you get to that site, click on the Discord, join our Discord if you haven't already. We would love to have you. We're 150 strong. We average about 10 to 15 players each org night. It's substantial, right? It's a good amount to do every game loop, especially with Blockade Runner coming around the corner. So you're welcome into this family, man. I would love to have you. And thank you for recognizing the wholesome feels. We lean more White Knight. We kind of lean away from chair punching. We lean more towards white knighting. So we're going to try to stay optimistic. We're going to try to see the silver lining in what Star Citizen is trying to do. And you'll hear some of that threaded throughout my analysis of 324. Let's go to Dakota Riley. Quote, "For the remainder of 2024, I predict 324 at the end of August with the new Saber variant 4.0 and the Zeus just before SitCon. SitCon will be focused on base building, the next iteration of bounty hunting, expanding the resource network to other areas of the game, Squadron 42, and the road to 1.0. IAE will bring us the Polaris and a few other ships we don't know about yet, and then we will get to one last patch in December, with maybe the first version of homesteads, persistent housing, and cities. There's a lot to unpack. This is still Wicker Beast from our organization, but there's a lot to unpack here, and I agree with a lot of it. 324 by the end of August, yeah, I can totally see that. We're still in wave 1 of the PTU as of Friday morning. They talked about this weekend. They're going to be testing Blockade Runner. So I can see that a wave 2, a wave 3, maybe by the end of next week. That'll bring us to about mid-August. That gives us plenty of time to have 324 out by August. I think 4.0 will be right behind it. I don't think they're going to wait too much longer. I think 324 is going to launch end of August. I'm going to predict that 4.0 is out by the end of September. That hits that Q3 mark, or it hits the end of summer mark. It gives them a little bit of extra time to cook. Again, walk and chew gum at the same time while they're struggling with 324's persistent hangers in the PTU. They're still developing Pyro. They're still making progress on that entire system. Yes, it requires server meshing, but I'm actually going to argue that that's an easier problem to solve in this current moment than what's currently happening in the PTU. And we'll get into it, but there's audio issues, there's hanger issues, items persisting whenever you log out and log back in. There are some pretty scary issues that are happening in 324 at this current moment. So, 2 more quotes. Jack Trin, quote, "Small correction, the plane that holds the space shuttles is actually a Boeing 747. A Boeing 737 is a lot smaller of a plane and is incapable of carrying the shuttle. Love the content. Thank you for all your work. I'm a pilot aviation geek and I couldn't not comment." This, by the way. Hey, thank you so much. I welcome correction. I don't know. I'm just a mouthpiece for Star Citizen. I'm passionate about the project. Military for 12 years, special forces, okay, put that aside. Amazon employee, like, I'm not a pilot. I don't know crap about aviation. I don't know crap about space, really. So feel free to correct me. I encourage somebody smarter than me to make those adjustments, and I'll happily change. Like Avocati versus Evocati. I'm just gonna leave that. Back to Prime Entity. So thank you again. It says Anna. I'm pretty sure this is Prime Entity. Thanks again for the engagement. Quote, "I definitely see what you mean with the comments being 100% broken, but I predict not much stuff before SitCon. Then they will pump out a bunch of stuff. Also, I used the message thing you provided for last week's episode, but apparently it's as broken as the comments." Love it. Yes, everything's broken. "You can never fail by sending me an email at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. And this comment section is only, I don't know, there's issues between Android and iPhone, but you really can only find it using your cellular device. People are having issues finding it on the internet, so I don't know. We're going to do the best we can. Email will always work as well. Answer the poll. We'll address the polls. Moving on. Okay. All right. As we stay kind of in this from the community, because the comment section, because the polls are so broken, I increased my level of engagement on Twitter this week, and I asked 4 polls. So we're going to go through all 4 of those polls real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the show. So again, we're going to be talking about some little small updates, like changes to the website, changes to the RSI launcher. We're going to go through the August promotions, the roadmap update, inside Star Citizen, then we're going to end with the Star Citizen monthly report. So here we go. The first poll I asked, your choice of ship for cargo hauling. Curious, with cargo hauling now available in PTU Wave 1, what is your go-to hull for this game loop? And let us know why in the comments below. Yes, I wish X would give us more than 4 choices, but this is the best we can do. So I kind of clumped up a couple of these holes together, and you're going to see there's a little bit of convoluting here. But the first option was the hull series, Alpha and Charlie, the Drake, which includes obviously the Cutlass, the Black, the Caterpillar. Then I threw in Crusader, C1, C2, and then other in the comments. So really whole Drake Crusader, but we know that there's Argo. We know that there's other ships to consider. Absolutely. But here's how the results came out. And you can see the results if you're watching YouTube. But in first place, we had the Crusader series. So for cargo hauling, the Crusader C1, C2 is your top choice. And this is 518 votes. 3.6 thousand views, 518 votes. This is a legitimate poll. So 50% chose the Crusader C1, C2 series, 23.7% chose Drake, 13.3% chose the whole series, and then 12.9% voted other in comments. And this is actually awesome. This is in the other in comments, a lot of people were responding with the Argo raft. Now, I've had zero exposure to the Argo raft up until this poll. Obviously, I knew what it was. I've seen, reviews, YouTube videos, whatever. But I knew it was problematic. I knew it was limited to, I think, 32 SCU containers. So it wasn't really good in this current build, right? So I saw it mentioned a lot. A lot of people loved the interior. They loved how everything felt, the design language. And so I was curious and I kind of did more research. I ended up posting on X, was like, I wonder if when 324 launches, if they're going to include the raft in the pledge store, or are we gonna have to wait until IAE in order to get the raft? And you're gonna see in the next couple of minutes, the series of events, like the August promotion is the Argo raft and the Argo SRV. So you're gonna see a couple of things that occur in the next couple of minutes that plays off of the Argo raft. So keep that in mind. Let's go to the second poll. What is your go-to cargo hauling tool? With the additional range, 10 to 20 meters, and strength of the max lift tractor beam, is it enough to replace your trusty Pyro RYT multi-tool, which its range is only 0.5 meters? This one's interesting. I don't think, there's still 360 views, only 50 votes. I'm gonna suspect that a lot of these answers were not considering 324. So in 324, you're in your hangar, you're having to move. I think my first mission was like 15 boxes, 10 or 15 boxes from the freight elevator to your ship. That can be very tedious. It can be very boring. It gets boring after a while. But taking like one box and putting on your ship and running back and getting your own box, using the Pyro RYT multi-tool, this is the small one-hander, by the way. The small one-hander, like, you're going to have to basically walk elevator, ship, etc. But with the max lift tractor beam, you can literally stand really at your ship. So if you have the raft or the hull A or hull C, you can stand at your ship, and the range of the max lift tractor beam goes all the way to the freaking freight elevator. So you can sit there, pick up an item or pick up a box from the freight elevator, mouse wheel it all the way to you, and just put it up on your ship. It makes things so much faster to be in one spot and just use that two-hander, the max lift tractor beam. Now, granted, it's expensive as hell. It's like 19,000 UEC, but you already start off the PT with like 15 million UEC. So get yourself the max lift tractor beam, totally use it. But here's the poll responses. The answers are, or the responses were, 54% chose the Pyro multi-tool, the one-hander, over the 46% of the max lift tractor beam. I think that's going to change. I think when 324 comes out, people are going to see the benefit of using that two-hander. If you're a cargo hauler, I feel like that is a must-have. All right. Our third post. So the third post, or the third poll, came out right whenever the August subscriber flare came out. So the ships for this month are the Argo Raft and the Argo SRV. The Argo Raft is, I think it's like 96 SU cargo capacity, but the Argo Raft is your cargo hauler, and your Argo, this is confusing. The Argo SRV is your like towing vehicle. It's really unique. I think it's the only one in the game in this current moment, but it's got that massive tractor beam on the back end of it where you can move large ships out of the way or from one location to another. And so I simply asked, because of that poll, with the August subscriber promotions live and the 2 available ships are the Raft and the SRV, will you be getting one or both of them? And so, of course, the options were Raft, SRV, both, and then neither. So out of 83 votes, 458 views, 83 votes, the winner was 41% of neither. And I'll explain why in a second, or at least what I think is the reason why. 41% say neither. 26.5% say the Raft. 20.5% say the SRV, and 12% say both. And I actually fit in that 12% answer. I ended up getting both. So here's why I think the neither. First off, the Argo SRV is pointless in this current moment. Yes, there are missions tucked away in the what is it? The illegal, like not the general tab of missions. It's the illegal missions, and I'm having a brain fart. I can't remember what it's called, but in that other, the unverified, there you go. You have verified and unverified. So the unverified list of missions, you can do the SRV mission of moving. It's under salvaging. You can move a ship, but it causes a bounty, or causes a crime stat. So you would have to go to a comm array, disable the comm array, or bring it down. And then you can do the SRV missions without getting a crime stat, or just accept that you're going to get a crime stat. Usually my game loop is doing all verified, and then I will end doing unverified and then turn myself in. So that way my prison sentence is happening while I'm sleeping or in between play sessions. And then when I get back into the game, I just simply get out of prison and I go. So I don't really care so much about bringing down the comm array, but the SRV is very particular. It's very unique. It's very specific, right? So that makes sense to me. The Raft, this is pre-324. The Raft can only hold the 32 SU containers, the large ass containers. And so it wasn't good for moving 1 SCU, 2 SCU, 8 SCU, whatever the sizes are. But 324 changes that. You can now, and I've done it. I actually did this in the PTU, so count it as fact. You can put any size box on the Argo Raft. So now it is an actual asset. I can see this poll changing once that becomes more socialized, when it becomes more discussed. But all box sizes can fit inside the Raft. And actually, this is probably a really good time. We have Groza in our organization, had a really good call out last night in our org night. I have not been able to verify this. He is a trusty resource. I trust what he says, obviously, but I have not been able to verify. I want to preface that. But in your first mission, you're really all the way up through junior of cargo hauling. So you get the rookie, you get your trial done, and then you get all your rookies released, and then the next level is junior. So all the way up through junior, you're going to be moving like 10 to 15 boxes. And this is like one SCU boxes of titanium or carbon or whatever. And that can become tedious. It can become tedious of getting one off the freight elevator and then putting it on your ship like we've discussed. But Groza had a really good point, and he's done this, and he can verify it himself. But you can purchase an 8 SCU container from a cargo center on like Seraphim Station. So Seraphim Station, go to a cargo center, purchase yourself an 8 SCU container. You can actually put 8 of the 10 or 8 of the 15 inside of that one 8 SCU container. Again, I haven't done it, but it sounds like it's a little wonky. It sounds like you got to put your 8 SCU box on the freight elevator, put it down or lower it. And once it's all inside of my kids are going crazy in the background. So real quick, you probably heard that. My wife has been gone from a work trip in the last 4 days. She came back late last night at midnight and wanted to surprise the kids. So you're probably hearing her surprising the kids right now, as I can hear it with my headphones on. So going back. So lower the 8 SCU box all the way down into the warehouse, and then once it's down there, you can double click on the 8 SCU box to open it. Then you put the 8 or however many SCU boxes for the mission inside of that 8 SCU container, and then you call it back up. And now you just have to move that one box right onto your Argo raft. And then to turn in the mission, I think it's even more wonky. I think to turn in the mission, you've got to, again, go down to your warehouse, unpack it, but then you have to raise the boxes back up, and then you got to lower it again, because to turn in your cargo hauling mission, it's actually part of the lowering process. It'll say lower to warehouse or lower to complete a mission. So you have to like raise it up so it gets re-registered in the cargo grid. Then you lower it again and select complete mission. I'm going to try it at some point today to validate, but again, I would put my money on that as a legitimate loop. So thanks, Groza, for that. I'm going to absolutely try it today. So one more poll. We're still on polls. We're going to get through this, I promise. One more poll. Argo versus Drake. So this was dropped last night, and it's been getting a lot. I mean, it's last night, and it's already 707 views, 136 votes. I went ahead and just asked the question, like, Argo versus Drake. I think there are some ship manufacturers that do certain things very well, and like all like comical relief aside, all like trying to be funny aside, Drake is a legitimate ship manufacturer. I mean, they're good. They're good. I mean, you can argue very easily. You can argue that the Drake Cutter is the best starter ship. Absolutely. Like the Vulture, great salvaging. You got the Kraken. That's going to be a huge ass capital ship. You got the Ironclad that just dropped. Like Drake is a powerhouse. All right. Again, all funny jokes aside, but it's very specific. Like you would say that is the workers manufacturer. Well, since the exposure to Argo, the last couple of days, I don't know. Argo's kind of the same feel. You get these very specific ships. I mean, you got the Mole, which is your mining, your like group mining ship. You got all the MPUVs, like the tractor personnel cargo. You have the MPUVs, which is crucial for loading stuff in your extra large personal hangar. And then you've got the raft and the SRV. So I put them up against each other, and this is super interesting. You would think that Drake would just run away with it. Again, Caterpillar, Corsair, Cutlass, Cutter, Dragonfly, Herald, Ironclad, Kraken, Mule, Vulture. I think the Buccaneer. I think I left that one out. It's only up by a little bit. So in first place, Drake is leading by 46.3%. And then in second place, obviously, Argo Astronautics at 38.2%. Across 136 votes. It's a lot closer than I thought it would be. And then the third option was too different to compare. I mean, it really is apples to oranges. Like, I get it. But 15.4% did say that they're too different to compare. I think that's legitimate. I think as Argo gets more exposure, as it maybe releases even more ship options, I think Argo has the potential of beating out Drake in the future. Oh my goodness. All right, we are just now getting into This Week in Star Citizen. So here we go. About 30 minutes into the show, This Week in Star Citizen. Sharing my screen for those of you on YouTube. Happy Monday, everyone. Last week, we concluded Foundation Festival, a vibrant celebration of the remarkable team spirit within the Star Citizen community. As part of the festivities, we curated an org showcase to highlight organizations actively seeking new pilots. We want to take a moment to thank everyone for participating. Whether you were a helpful guide, a recruiting org, or just another bounty to hunt. Thanks for making this year's event a great one. Simultaneously, Ship Showdown took center stage, showcasing the most beloved drivable and flyable vehicles of the verse. But before we crown this year's Ultimate Ship Showdown champion in the thrilling head-to-head voting battles, we need your help determining the 16 most popular crafts across 8 categories. Your creative submissions through our community hub and social media channels are already flooding in, and we're eager for more. Remember, this is your chance to unlock awesome goodies and help crown the community's favorite vehicle. Additionally, remember that the Sweet 16 of this celebratory SmackDown will be available to fly for free from August 15th to August 22nd. The choice is yours. Decide which ones you want to get your hands on. In other news, Star Citizen Alpha 3.24 has been rolled out to the PTU servers for Wave 1 testing, with wider access scheduled to follow soon. Your assistance in identifying, investigating, and reporting any bugs to the Issue Council is crucial in helping our developers smash them. All right, bullet points, let's go. Tuesday, we had the August subscriber comlink and newsletter, the promotions. Wednesday, Star Citizen monthly report in the comlink. We have the Squadron 42 monthly report emailed. We'll cover that on the next episode. And the roadmap update and roundup. Thursday, we had Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 playing with fire. And then today, right after the recording of this episode, we will have the Star Citizen live, and we'll get the email for the RSI weekly newsletter. A couple of responses. So as I go up to the ship showdown, just a reminder, we're going to go really hard and heavy starting on Monday, or starting whenever, I think it's Sunday or Monday, when the actual voting starts. Beyond the Verse podcast will be your one-stop shop for news, reviews, analysis on the daily. So last year we started tapping into like making recordings and putting them on TikTok and predicting with statistics and all that crap. We're going to do it again this year. I have my GoPro, right? I've got my little content creator set up for the GoPro. I'm going to bring it with me to work and wherever I need it in order to record a really nice, like, here's what's happening today. It's going to be fun. So if you haven't subscribed to the socials, do so. And again, it's all social media /BTV_cast. It's going to be a lot of fun. If this is your first ship showdown, it's open for interpretation. It's not necessarily may the best ship win. There are many reasons why ships can beat out other ships. Is it a personal vendetta? Is it because you want a ship to be flyable in the Sweet 16? Like, you might not like the 890 jump, but you should probably push the 890 jump into the Sweet 16 so you can fly a limited hull ship. Right? There's really no other chance to be able to fly a limited hull ship. So do it, right? Invictus launch week, I guess. IAE. So IAE, maybe you'd be able to do that, but this will be a good opportunity for you to push ships that you want to fly for free into the Sweet 16. All right, let's go. Quick updates. I want to make sure I continue, this podcast being your place, your one-stop shop for news. So just very quickly, we have two kind of flyby reports. So number one, we have website changes coming, and then two, we have a new RSI launcher 2.0. So let's discuss the website changes real quick. I'm going to read the spectrum, move on to the RSI launcher, and then we will get into the patch 3.24 notes. To the article. Website changes coming your way. Hello everyone. As you've likely noticed over the last couple of years, our web team has been diligently working on enhancing our website to elevate the user experience. You've seen this in previous upgrades to Comlink design and new and improved tools such as the Issue Council, Community Hub, the RSI Launcher, and more. These are many steps that make up a larger web initiative to improve the overall web experience. Up next is a revamp of our Pledge Store, which will roll out very soon. Trademark. This aesthetic overhaul isn't just about looks. We've listened to your feedback and identified areas for improvement to make things more intuitive and enjoyable. And we're certainly not done there. You can expect a bevy of additional updates on the horizon, all of which are currently in active development. So the RSI homepage revamp, new platform navigation bar on the RSI homepage, Star Citizen game page updates, and the Pledge Store refresh. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to roll out these exciting changes, and as always, thank you for your continued support. We'll keep a close eye on both how you interact with these changes as we implement them and your feedback. Straight into the RSI launcher. Hello everyone, today we are excited to share the RSI Launcher 2.0.2 with everyone. The RSI Launcher 2.0.2 can be found here. There's the link to the executable file. The focus of this version is to add the launcher debug tools that will allow you to clear the launcher cache, and there's a a destination link there. 2.0.2 will also give a quick access to your logs, to the new uninstall feature, and a tutorial for new users of the RSI launcher. Please try out these features and let us know what you think. Your feedback is crucial in helping us make the launcher the best it can be. New features. Tutorial for the new launcher users. The tutorial can be found under the main menu when clicking on Discover. The debug tools allows the user to clear launcher cache and a direct access to the logs and the uninstall. The fixed issues, fixed access for gifted game packages. It set the minimum size on launcher first opening and spamming play pause button. Still some known issues there. Here's a link for the RSI issues council. And then, any additional feedback can be provided in the Spectrum thread, etc., etc. So it might not be the most sexy news report, but it happened. It happened. It's going to be happening. You deserve to hear it on this podcast. Let's get into kind of the meat of today's podcast. So we titled this podcast 324 Preview. And so we're going to go through the latest patch notes. This was August 7th at 12:45 p.m. So this is the latest patch notes, the latest and greatest. It's still wave 1 in the PTU, but I'm going to go through each one of these and just give kind of overall reactions. I have spent a lot of time in the last couple of days, I would say in the 15 to 20 hours worth of being in the PTU. So quick little reaction to each one of these testing feedback focuses. And I hope it helps. It might come across as a little bit negative, so I want to preface that the initial wow factor is amazing. I mean, you're gonna get into 324 and it's gonna be game changing, literally game changing. A week later, you start kind of realizing that some of these loops are kind of redundant and there are some issues that need to be worked out. So here we go. You're going to start 324, at least in the PTU. You're going to start with 15 million credits. And so when you first get into 324, you know what to do. First off, get your ass. Well, I was going to say get to an orbital station, but actually let's do your personal hangar first. So if you choose whatever home residence that you choose, that is where your personal hangar is going to be. So you might want to spend some time there first. But it's a whole new ball game, y'all. Whole new ball game. So when you get into the game, you hit I on your keyboard, doesn't exist anymore. Your inventory does not exist at all. In your hab, you can go to the item bank or the storage access and you can do it there, but there are storage access kiosks all throughout your home station. For the rest of this conversation, let's talk about Orison because that's where I made my residence. So around Orison, they're everywhere. I mean, there's kiosks and hallways, all your destinations, you're going to have plenty of access. Even in your personal hangar, you're going to have storage access there as well. So don't fret. You don't have to do it in your hab. But in order to get that I functionality, you've got to find yourself a storage access. Go up to it, open it, and it's that screen you've seen on Inside Star Citizen where the drawer or the storage access is kind of on the left side of the screen, and the right side of the screen is the warehouse, or it's your inventory that's in Orison. So in that moment, you can transfer, it's limited, but you can transfer items over into the drawer. And then once you're ready, you hit, open drawer. And then that interface will look very familiar. That will kind of open up your I key. And so you'll see your character, you'll see like that inventory is going to be the drawer inventory. And then you can click and drag. You can click and drag, your undersuit, your armor, whatever you've put in that drawer, you can then equip. So it's a little, again, initially you're like, yeah, this is realistic. This is awesome. After a week of doing this, I can see where it's like, okay, like it's a little redundant. Why am I seeing a second screen in order to put my equipment on? I'm already moving it into the drawer. Now I have to use the drawer, and there's not a good way to get back into it. So if you want to load your gear, but you still have more to do in your storage access, once you exit out, you got to go right back in it. So it's just a lot of additional steps. They got to figure out the workflow of what that looks like. So you've logged into 324. The first thing you're going to notice is the storage access. So do what you need to do with your inventory. Again, this is not the patch that addresses unique item recovery. So I still would leave your subscriber gear. I would leave all your things that you want to persist and not lose, that you spent money on. I wouldn't touch it. I would still just not touch it until we get that unique item recovery. But you're going to do that inventory, whatever. I chose not to. I chose not to touch my inventory my first playthrough. I went straight to my personal hangar. So here's the next big change that you're going to see. The next big change you're going to see is the actual kiosks, the ASOP terminals. It's no longer you choose a ship and it assigns you a hangar. The buttons inside of the elevator are no longer hangar 1, hangar 2, hangar 3. You literally have the public access pads, so pad 1, pad 2, pad 3, and then you've got the Solus personal hangar. Like, it's going to have your name on it. It's pipe texting. They're going to have your name on it, and it's going to have your extra large hangar, whatever it is, as a button to push in the elevator, and that's it. So your Orison that had like 20 freaking buttons to scroll through now has like 4. It's like the landing pads and then your personal hangar. It was very trippy. It threw me off. That was I thought something was broken, but I realized, okay, so the only hangar you can access at your residence is your personal hangar in this current moment. And so you get to your personal hangar, and this thing is this is what I mean. Your first playthrough, you're going to get into your personal hangar, and it is astonishing. Amazing work. Good job, CIG. You get in there. I mean, it's been revamped. Like you have corners of the hangar that are used for your freight elevators. So like the far left and the close right corners are your freight elevators. You're going to have those. You're going to have the storage access kiosks, and then you're going to have your ASOP terminal kiosk. So it changes the entire interior of this massive ass hangar. You're going to go to your ship, and you're going to say, you know what, I want to fly, maybe an Aero, Gladius. I don't know. I just want to get to Seraphim Station. You're going to pick whatever ship you want, and then you call it up. And this is where... Y'all, it's incredible. The lights go out, everything turns red, it flashes like hazard lights flash. You have a massive caution line that shows up around the hangar. The animation of the hangars opening, the elevator dropping, it securing your ship, it bringing it up, and it's showing your ship. I mean, it's all real time, all happening, all physicalized. It is very impressive, extremely impressive. I don't know if I want to get into like the negative first, or like this soon, but yeah, let's do it. The audio is broken as shit. So when you first get into your personal hangar, it hurts your ears, and it doesn't align with what's happening in your hangar. So when you first walk into your hangar, it sounds like your elevator is already moving. It sounds like it sounds like the alarm system is already triggered, but you haven't done anything yet. And honestly, it doesn't go away. I mean, it goes away for a couple of seconds, but if you walk back, to the elevators, it happens again. So it's almost as if the proximity or your location in the hangar triggers what audio is happening. So they have to fix it. They have to address the audio issues in the personal hangar, because it's very annoying, and it's very off-putting. Because like I'll be on my ship about to leave and I hear the elevator and I'm like, oh shit, like I need to get up and go. So I'm stressing out trying to get everything turned on to get up, because I'm thinking the hangar's dropping, but it's not. Nothing physically is happening. It's just the audio's jacked. So that needs to be addressed. And then decorating. So you call up your items in the freight elevator. You can actually buy furniture as well. It's really fun. But you're still having to decorate using your Pyro multi-tool. It's clunky as shit. I mean, you pull it up, you have to hold down R, and then you can kind of move your mouse to rotate the item, but it doesn't sit. It doesn't like, it's not, like the cargo grid snaps into place. You don't really have that satisfying like assurance that the couch where you dropped it is actually where it's going to stay. It's almost like a delivery mission where you have the box in hand and you put it where you want it to go, and it kind of clips. It clips into the floor and into the wall. That's kind of what you're getting out of the decoration process. So I don't know. Again, some work that needs to be done. I'm not saying let's cargo grid or make the entire hanger snappable. That's not scalable. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's just down the road a little bit. But they've got to figure out a better way to make decorating and moving your furniture around significantly better. So, okay. So then you're going to get your ass up to the Norval station. So you're going to go to Seraphim Station. And when you're in Seraphim Station, that is where, like always, you probably want to make that your recon or your respawn point. But that's where your first cargo hauling mission is going to be. It's a trial. It's going to be like move 10 boxes from Seraphim Station down to the Augustus spaceport, which is on Orison. It's super easy to do. It's very quick. You can use a Nomad. You can use a Cutlass Black. You don't have to be sexy with it. I, at the time, had a whole Alpha, a whole A. And that's super easy because it's an external load. You don't have to go up any ramps. You take the box from the freight elevator and move it on to the side or the wings of the hull A. Same thing with the raft, obviously, but at this point I had the hull A. Load up those 10 to 15 boxes, take it to Seraphim Station or take it to Augustus Spaceport, turn them in using the freight elevator, done. That'll unlock, I think it was like 45 missions that are all rookie, but different types of missions. And I don't really want to do this by memory. Let me, I'm going to pull up my Twitter because I already did some research on this and don't want to repeat myself. It has to do with, standby. Here we go. All right. So out of the 34 missions or 45 or however many that they just bulk drop on you, these are rookie, by the way. They have naming conventions. And so actually, let me share my screen. They have naming conventions, and here is what I've been able to capture so far. So you've got the rookie rank, which is the initial missions after the introductory mission. And then eventually you'll have the junior rank, and I'm assuming, it'll just raise with your reputation. But then you've got direct missions, which is like you pick up one pickup and you drop it off at one location. So it's one pickup, one drop off. Then you've got planetary missions, which is where you would go on to planet side and drop off at an orbital station. So think, Crusader is a bad example because it's a gas planet. So think like going to Yella. You pick up 10 items from a mining facility or wherever on Yella, and then it'll say drop off, that grouping to Seraphim Station. Okay. Then you have solar, which is one planet system to another planet system. So in the example that I had, I went from Seraphim Station in Crusader, and then I had to drop off like 5 out of 10 at Everest Harbor, and then the other 5 out of 10 at a Tressler. So you're kind of going from, again, like planet system to planet system. So it's your longer distance, right? So that's your solar. And then the last one, you have local, which is planet side to the same planet side. So like a Yella mining facility to another Yella mining facility. And this could change. It very well could change. In this current moment, that's what I've been able to experience myself. So do that for a couple of times and you're going to realize it's redundant. It is the first iteration of cargo hauling. I have had fun this last week, but it's not going to beat out my mercenary missions. It's not going to stay around as this amazing game loop for you going into 4.0, in my opinion. I don't see a lot of org opportunity here. And again, this is, I can't reiterate this enough. It is the first iteration of cargo hauling. It will evolve over time, but in this current moment, I don't see like an org opportunity for cargo hauling. I'm assuming when you get beyond the junior ranks, you're going to need a whole C, a C2, You're gonna need obviously a larger vessel to move, and that will require org play. We're just not there yet. Last but not least, and this is not part of the patch notes, but they're trying to get the dynamic event Blockade Runner out into the PTU this weekend. That is, it's I say data running. You're going to a station or a location, you're picking up cargo, and you're delivering it to another station's freight elevator. So it's basically the PvE raid dungeon trial of cargo hauling. It's called Blockade Runner. So I'm excited for that. Let's see here. How do I... I'm excited for that, but I'm also tailoring my expectations that the basics of 324 are pretty rough right now in the PTU. I'm not expecting much success from Blockade Runner going into the weekend. So I told you I was going to be a little bit on the more negative side for this update, but okay, let's move on to the next segment. Let's go over the August subscriber promotions. I'm going to continue my negative trend and say I don't give two craps about anything promoted in the subscriber store this month. You get a Corsair plushie. Well, I'll do this the right way. So Centurion members get the Drake Interplanetary Corsair plushie. Cool. Don't know why, unless you have a Corsair and you're like passionate. I can't imagine you flying a MSR with a Drake Corsair plushie inside of the back of an MSR. Maybe if you're collecting plushies, it will look good on a couch inside of your personal hangar. I just don't care. I don't care. Me personally, don't care about plushies. But so the Centurion level subscriber flare is this Corsair plushie. It's great. The Imperator level subscriber flare is this ornate drinking gourd. So it's a cup. I will say it's finely detailed. I mean, it looks nice. It looks like something you would see out of New World, and I say that because that was the game prior to Star Citizen I was playing. It kind of has that rustic, kind of aged look to it. So I don't know. I'll give kudos to the objects team. It looks good, right? And then the store subscriber flare that usually would be something that you would want to consider spending your actual money on. I don't know. It literally is a coffee mug. It's the handmade glazed mug. Again, great detail. It's just not for me. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the subscriber flare? It can't always be like, I think last month was like the paint jobs, right? The Corsair and the Vulture paint jobs that are freaking phenomenal. It can't always be that. Not every single month, twice every month. It can't. But last month they hit a home run. They hit it out of the ballpark. It was phenomenal. This month, I'll probably never touch these items. But what was amazing, and we've already talked about this, I won't repeat myself, but in the pledge store you got discounts on the Argo Raft and the Argo SRV. I took advantage of these. I had buyback pledges for cutters, right? So a lot of people, they bought several cutters with lifetime insurance with the expectation of upgrading those, so you transfer the lifetime insurance to that whatever new hull. I have many of those in my buybacks. I took two, ship upgraded them to the Raft and the SRV. I've got both, and I will be keeping them. The Raft is freaking phenomenal. So, what are your thoughts on the subscriber flare? I'm curious. Respond, contact at Beyond the Verse HQ. Respond, try to find the comments section. Let me know how you feel about the subscriber promotion flare, and if we should expect those amazing paint jobs like we had last month, every month. I'd love to hear it. Roadmap update. There's no update. I don't know what else to say. I could read this. We've seen this a few times this year, but everything's on track. That's it. I guess I could read it so we're not just sitting here, but this is from Xylo. Every 2 weeks, we provide a brief explanatory note alongside the roadmap update to offer insight into the decisions behind any changes. This week, there are no new updates or changes to report, but we recognize many of you are eager to hear how things are progressing as we approach major upcoming milestones. Alpha 3.24 and its related content will undoubtedly leave a lasting impact on various systemic gameplay features, which means it has had a lengthier evocati and PTU than normal. And that is very true. The team is fully focused on closing this patch out while also wrapping up our release intentions for the rest of the year. We've made solid progress on mapping this out, and you can look forward to an update including new additions to the progress tracker in our next roadmap update, which is 2 weeks from now. So Xylo committed to in 2 weeks, we will see the progress tracker. We appreciate all your support. Your activity and participation in the PTU has been a huge help in preparing things for prime time. So you heard it from Xylo. In 2 weeks, we will get the progress tracker and know the rest of the year and how everything's going to play out. My reactions to this, it's different from the rest of the community. Most of the community saw this, hate it. They're angry, right? They're mad, whatever. I don't care. CIG has been very good about disclosing when things are getting pushed out. I think they've been very good. They've been very transparent of like, hey, this has missed the mark. We're going to push this item out to Alpha 3.24.x or Alpha 3.25. I feel like if things were falling behind, they would have denoted that in the roadmap roundup. So I suspect that 3.24 will be out by the end of August. We were promised 4.0 by the end of summer, right? End of Q3. So we'll say September. So things seem to be on track. And I think that's the takeaway. At least that's what I'm going with it. All right, we have 2 more items, y'all. 2 more items. We got the Inside Star Citizen Alpha 4.0 playing with fire YouTube video that we're going to watch together. I might pause and react. What I will tell you, again, just like the last time, if you're listening to this on podcast, do go and watch, whether it's on my video version of this podcast, but do go and watch. It's a beautiful, like the fire is very well done. The animation, the way it reacts. I have a lot of friends that are firefighters who have watched this video, and they can say it's probably the best rendering or the best physics of fire. Now, how it looks and plays in space, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we have a lot of data to support like what it should look like and how it acts in space. I think there might be some reality, plays there or things that are at play. But my friends are saying this is pretty accurate, and so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the resource management. I'm excited about the fire extinguisher operation and how you have to put it back to recharge. Like, there's a lot of gold nuggets that are coming out of this video. So listen to it, go watch it. I'm gonna try to stay quiet for the next, I think it's like 15 minutes. But quickly to the article. Let me share my screen. Make sure that's good. The article says it's getting hot in here, and before you fall into a burning ring of fire, nice, you'll want to join us for this in-depth review of what you can expect from one of the most anticipated aspects of Alpha 4.0 fire gameplay. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Last week, we explored some of the new adventures available to players in space in the upcoming Alpha 4.0. But there are even more dangers to be found within your spacecraft and vehicles. Fire is blazing a trail towards its awaited debut in the persistent universe. And while we don't want to burn any bridges with the resource management team, we'll jump out of the fire and into their frying pan in just a few weeks. Wow, I really bet their ears are burning. We're fired up to give the VFX arsonists a chance to set the world on fire this week, or at least just the interior of spaceships, because we don't want them to burn themselves out playing with fire. I'm out of idioms now. I'm gonna go see if I can add more fuel to the fire.
In 4.0, we'll have fire inside of ships. For our initial rollout, we didn't really want players to start fires everywhere. The poor surface, they really wouldn't be able to handle it. So we decided to focus on the interior of ships. They're smaller, more contained, and more controlled. Fire is tightly integrated with the resource network system and a great fit for a first release within the spaceships, where resource network will be focusing on as many ships as we can. Starting a fire is based on damage and different kinds.
This is important. All right, real quick. My hesitation, pushback, whatever you want to call it, I love taking a hammerhead and role-playing that as a solo pilot. I love it. I love taking the big ships, the reclaimer, using the mole as mining, right, as a solo pilot. And so I like solo piloting large ships. So my hesitation and I did, how I do those Today in Star Citizen posts really early in the mornings. My hesitation to today's Inside Star Citizen was, is this the end of being able to solo pilot large ships? If things catch on fire, you can't be flying. You have to get out of the cockpit, obviously, and go handle the resources, right? Whether it's taking out a fire or replacing a what do you call those things in engineering? Like the plugs, the fuses. There you go, the fuse. There's gonna be a lot of things that you need to do in order to solo fly. And so that was my pushback. Like, if there's fires happening, it's gonna be a little bit harder to fly larger ships. So the Polaris is coming out this year. The Idris is probably going to be out by the end of next year. These are large ships, and not everybody has sole provision to play with. Not everybody has 150 people in their org. So we've got to have NPCs that we can hire. Like, we need to be able to hire NPCs to work on your ships that can handle, these fire putouts. Because I can't imagine a scenario where CIG says, hey, Solus, thank you so much for getting a $3,000 Javelin, but you can't play it unless you have an org of 80 people to run that ship. I can't imagine a world where that is acceptable. And I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong here. So that was my hesitation. But they're about to, in this video, they're about to get into what causes fires, and it made me feel a lot more confident where, okay, as long as I keep the maintenance up on my ships and I do my due diligence of repairing and making sure everything is good to go before I fly, like as realistic as that sounds, there shouldn't be any issues unless I come in contact with a pirate or somebody starts a fire on my ship. So this next piece is super important.
Of damage.
Fires can be caused by ship items when they hit 0 health. There are also ways for ship items to cause fires in the normal running and operation of them. We're currently looking at making it so that when they misfire and they have the highest level of wear, that there is a chance that they can also cause fires.
But other types of damage, like impacts from weapons or explosions, they could also ignite a fire. Another way to start a fire is getting the environment hot enough to actually get your surfaces to autocombust. For example, if you open up your door on a really, really hot planet and the hot air starts to flow into your ship, then if that air is hot enough, and some surfaces might start igniting from that.
Seriously? I could open my door and my ship might catch fire?
You would need a room to reach, I think it's like 1,000 Kelvin for those materials to start to smoke.
So it's something that's technically possible, but it's not likely.
If the planet is warm enough, yes.
Is there a planet warm enough to do that right now?
Don't think so.
Okay, I just want to be sure. You're saying systemically it's possible.
Systemically it's possible,
okay.
Yeah.
It's technically possible, but very unlikely.
Don't worry, everybody.
Part of the fire hazard system propagation is based on the fire triangle, which is oxygen, fuel, and temperature. Oxygen is tracked by the room system. The atmosphere, that is, most rooms in the universe have their atmosphere tracked, including oxygen. The fuels, they will be tracked on the surfaces, so every surface in the universe is marked up with a surface type. That surface type has different properties for fire propagation to work. The heat that is usually from a ignition source is the damage that could happen, but also if you have an object already on fire, that could start a fire again based on the heat that that fire is emitting. Fire will start small if you have a small ignition point, so it will not start blazing immediately, so it will start propagating quite slowly. But if you leave it untended, then the fire will start growing, and the more it grows, the faster the propagation will happen and the larger the fire will get.
It's quite complicated to have a control over that much energy, heat. It's a balance. I think that's the hardest thing to get. Having the balance, having the fire texture that works well with the particle behavior, with the heat, the sparks. You need to have the whole feeling of heat and danger. And it's when you get this spot where it really starts to make you look certainly afraid of it that, yeah, it gets good, I would say.
Each of the materials that we have marked up, they have their properties, and we can set a material to be combustible or not. Most surfaces will be combustible. A few exceptions, such as glass, will not be. But the ones that are, especially in ships, we decided to go for a more tech approach. So even if metal itself will not easily combust, we assume that behind that metal there will be pipes and cables that can catch fire based on the properties that each surface type has. For example, wood will burn different from rubber or plastic or metal. So the propagation between those will interact differently. Don't worry, not everything will catch fire at the same time. We have these different properties that will cause different surfaces to catch fire at different times.
You have to think of the other things that can also catch fire. Things like your cargo, which you probably don't want to catch fire because if it burns out, you will lose it. Other things might be loose ship items that you have laying around just in case you want to repair your ship.
The player itself will not be able to catch fire, but the player will feel the influences of fire in their environment. So if you step into the fire, then you will take damage. If you are near to the fire, you will feel the heat, so your actor status will start showing up with higher temperatures. If the fire is not managed properly, for example, your life support can't feed in enough oxygen, then oxygen will be drained and your player will start to asphyxiate.
Why can't I set people on fire?
Tech.
Will you commit here and now that someday we'll set people on fire?
I will commit to nothing.
I tried, everybody.
People will have different ways of setting fires to ships, hopefully other people's ships, not your own. It is important to know for 4.0 that we will not have fire outside of ships. So if you set fire to an item inside one ship, you can bring it to another ship, given that the medium that you're traveling through has enough oxygen to sustain the fire. You can set fire by damaging items in the ship, so shooting them when an item dies, that has a chance to set fire. Other ways to set.
So for those of you on podcast, the example that you're seeing on the YouTube video, they've shot their oh my gosh, the penguin. What the heck's the penguin's name? No, the little plush penguin. Good Lord. They shot that, lit it on fire, and they're taking it from one ship to another to set the other ship on fire. Super interesting, super intuitive, a creative way. I think it's going to change piracy. It's going to change, I don't know, if you really want to cause some heartache in the game. This is one example. I cannot remember the damn penguin's name. That's frustrating, but
Fire are bringing in ignited items and placing them in someone else's ship.
Pico. right? Pico, the penguin? All right. Back to the video.
One of the biggest challenges that we recently had with Fire was the networking, and Francesco has done a really, really amazing job with getting that ready.
The presence or absence of fire is a very, very important thing to convey to players. You don't want a player stepping into a thing that doesn't look like it's burning or avoiding a thing that looks like it's burning. Synchronizing fire was a very important part of making sure that the feature functioned correctly, and we have a lot of data that fire generates, and a lot of data doesn't work well over networks. There was a lot of work being put into relying as much as possible on the fact that our fire system is stable, it's deterministic, it will always do the same thing given the same initial parameters. There were a lot of cases. There were cases of players joining in late. They obviously don't get where the fire was 3 hours ago. They just see now. They need to know where it is now. There's players who have really bad internet connectivity or servers struggling a lot, situations that bring a halt to the continuous progress of fire from one end or the other, and we need to reconcile that. So we needed a way to know when fire was no longer suitably similar between what the player was seeing and what the server thought was there, and refresh it at that point and minimize how much data we needed to refresh it at that point. We are pretty happy with the way it works now. We have it so that it sends as little data as possible to sort of create these summarized states for the client and server, and only when these differ enough do we actually send that relatively big, still compressed, but relatively big snapshot to synchronize everything back together.
A fire that is left unchecked will spread throughout your ship. And if it does this and it reaches your ship components,
System is offline.
then you'll be having a very bad day. And this could lead to your ship being both crippled or destroyed. So this means you will be able to put out fires using a fire extinguisher. Where possible, we have made sure that fire extinguishers are readily available throughout our ships.
So this is the second part that I think is crucial, or the most important piece of this video. We start off with what causes fire. They're about to get into the list of what is needed to put out fires.
The extinguishers, they're very simple to use. They are point and shoot. You have to be careful that you don't start flailing wildly with your extinguisher. If you have to aim at the base of your fire and then keep it there to cool down the surface and take away enough of the heat and the oxygen so that the fire calms down. There will be a temperature readout where you can see how strong the fire is still where you're aiming.
And you need to keep your finger on the trigger until it actually goes out. Fires can just be smoking there, and technically it's very close to being on fire. So you really do want to make sure it's really out before you move on. Because if you just leave them smoking and then go wandering off, there's a good chance it will heat up again and catch fire again. It's worth knowing that a fire extinguisher has a limited amount of ammo within it. To your benefit, you can also take your fire extinguishers back to where they are stored, plug them in, and then they will recharge their ammo. However, it is important to know that if your ship doesn't have a functioning life support at this moment, the recharge will not work.
If you leave the fire completely untended, then your ship can completely burn out, so it will look completely black. If the life support can keep up providing enough oxygen, then it will just keep going until all of the fuel, that is the surfaces, has been burnt out. Or if the life support is not running, then your fire will start to diminish. But if you don't do anything, the life support will keep feeding in oxygen enough for the fire to be sustained and start spreading everywhere.
You don't want people to put fires out?
No. I want them to die in a fire.
Views and opinions of Leo do not represent those of Cloud Imperium Games, Harvard Space Industries, or its subsidiaries.
There are more ways to extinguish fire. With the life support and resource network, you can cut power to your life support for a room, and that means that there will be no more oxygen provided, which means that the fire itself will start using up all the oxygen, and it will extinguish slowly by itself. Another way is to open up your doors to open space, and that will mean that all of the atmosphere is being sucked out into open space, and again, no more oxygen for your fire to continue. After a fire, you can repair your items or replace them. Fire can damage your interior of your...
So here's the solution. Here's the solution to my problem. I never fly ships without an EVA like undersuit and a helmet. So just vent all your rooms, vent your entire ship. Because again, you don't need oxygen. At least the way I play the game, I don't ever take my helmet off ever. I don't even eat, right? I lay down in the medical beds, right? So if that's your play style too, just go into your ship already with everything unvented. Or vented, right? Interesting. I think I just solved my own problem. I didn't catch that the first time that I watched this video. Yeah, you can open up everything when you're in space. Just make sure your org or your people that are on your ship know that you're about to do that, because that's a consideration that hasn't been needed up to this point, right? So when you open up your garage, your hangar, garage. When you open up your garage, that vacuum is going to be actually relevant now. So interesting.
Spaceship, we have some very beautiful burn decals that Francesco and Guillaume have been working on to show you where your ship has been burned. The visual damage to the surfaces is not something you can repair manually, but you can go to a repair station and repair your ship there, and that will get rid of all of the visual burn.
But if I want to leave it burned because it looks cool, I can do that?
You can do that. It persists. I'm very happy with the current progress. It's been a very long road for the team to get to this point. It's amazing to finally be able to roll this out to the players.
It's amazing to work with, it's just so fun, and the results are very good and very quick, so...
I'm looking forward to see what people will do with it, like what kind of weird edge cases they'll find.
All right, I have to pause it here. We did this a couple of Inside Star Citizens ago, where, the plume of smoke in your rifle, when you shoot, the ejection port is full of smoke, the barrel is full of smoke, and you're seeing that. I thought that was very impressive. This is another one of those moments where on this screenshot that I have right now on YouTube, there is... I think it's just it encapsulates everything I said leading up to this episode. The mechanics and the physics of the fire. You can see the ceiling that's also caught on fire with debris that's like falling, almost like it's raining fire. But then you've got the cloud of smoke that's covering like maybe 2/3 of the upper part of the screen. Very realistic. Very I think immersive. I can see us, if we're on the ship trying to survive, you'd have to crawl in order to see where you're going. Very realistic. This is very promising that they're putting this much care and attention into this mechanic that really is preventable as long as you're keeping your shit up. I don't know. I'm very impressed with the visuals and the physics that they've put into this.
And we'll probably have to fix up, but it's as long as the servers don't die because of fire, and I think we will be able to deal with it.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned where and how fire will make its first appearances in the persistent universe, in your spaceships. How it'll spread and the dangers of leaving it unchecked. Your spaceships will burn and maybe go boom. And both how you'll put them out or potentially spread the fire to other vehicles. And I'm banking y'all might find some ways that we missed. Now don't forget the ship showdown is still underway. It's your chance to vote on which vehicles you like best, as well as send John Crew messages on social media that he legally has to respond to during this time.
Hi all, David here. The only thing I have to say about this is, no. just no. Our program will now conclude.
For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week. It's time to go Pyro Planet side.
So
How do
I'm
you
pretty
start a
sure.
fire? First, you contact the ATC.
Yeah, I could start with that. That would be good. I could say that. You want me to do that? Well, first of all, you start. Yeah, you call the ATC and they set fire to your ship.
Had to play it. Yeah, so I think Jared just kind of teased next week's Inside Star Citizen, where they'll take us into Pyro and hopefully show us all the new changes and updates that they've made to Pyro. I forgot where I read it or where I saw it. It was official CIG comms, but they've made a lot of changes to Pyro, and a lot of changes from the tech preview channels Pyro that we got to see at the beginning of this year, end of last year, beginning of this year. So that'll be really exciting to see, and hopefully we're one step closer to getting this done. If you were watching on YouTube, you probably saw me pick up my phone. So like I said, I have an obligation or a commitment to do after this podcast. So unfortunately, I'm not going to go through, I don't have time to go through everything in the Star Citizen monthly report. It is a somewhat shorter one, but it's your typical, articles. So if something I'm about to say interests you, go check it out. But the AI features team, AI tech, art characters, art ships, community, core gameplay, economy, in-game branding, mission design, narrative, online technology, user interface, and the visual effects. All of those have updates. Get into it if that interests you. I do want to end on one note. So I like the creative side of content creation. In New World, I actually recorded a role-playing story with beautiful music in the background. I took an opportunity to write a prayer. I call this a gamer's prayer to Chris Roberts. I don't know. I'm going to share it with you, and hopefully this puts a smile on your face for the day. Let me share my screen. So I wrote this. I hope you enjoy. A gamer's prayer to Chris Roberts. O mighty Chris Roberts, our guide through the stars, bless our night of gaming, keep us free from scars. Let the servers be steady, the lag disappear, and grant us smooth sailing through atmospheres clear. May our ships fly true with no bugs in sight, and our missions succeed in the deep of the night. Shield us from crashes, the dreaded 30K, and let every adventure brighten our day. May frame rates be high and the gameplay be fast, with every run completed and every bounty amassed. Keep our cargo secure and our credits in hand as we journey together through this digital land. So guide us, O Roberts, through the galaxy wide, with friends at our side on this epic ride. In your name we venture through systems and space. Bless our gaming with joy and endless grace. Amen. Yes. It's a first off, if you've been a backer of Star Citizen, I don't know, ever, longer than a day, patience and understanding is a virtue. We constantly strive to find ours as backers of Star Citizen, and the servers have a tendency to be very problematic. So wherever you are in your journey, whether you're in the PTU with 3.24 or you're staying in 323 and enjoying the live PU, safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. All right, if you want to become part of the conversation, email us at contact@beyondtheversehq.com. Join our socials at /BTV_cast and watch our YouTube version of this podcast, youtube.com/@BTV_ cast. Join our in-game organization, Soul Provision, at www.robertspaceindustriescom/orgs/provision. We hope this finds you well until next week, episode 70. Safe travels as you traverse beyond the verse. Take care, everybody.